I'm an SDR who really, at the end of the day, I send mostly emails to book my meetings, and I'm a little bit worried that these tasks aren't super value added. What should I do in this situation?
Leave your job, probably. I didn't want to say it. You can make a job what you want to make it. Most leaders want you to show initiative. So the first thing would be, I'd say, look, I hear that this is what you want me to do. I'm happy to do these email templates. What I would like to do is I will still hit your numbers. I want to spend 20% extra time to show you a new way forward over the next month. And then if I'm able to generate different types of results, are you okay with me duplicating that? I am telling you right now, most sales leaders are sane and reasonable people. And as long as they don't look bad and someone doesn't go to them like, hey, why isn't Johnny Smith hitting his numbers? They're usually like, well, okay, if you're going to hit your numbers and you're going to try something different, like I'm good with it. So, I like to take a little bit of ownership over it first, and then, yeah, maybe I bounce. What's going on, man?
Oh, my man.
All right, man. Episode number 2. We're getting ready. We're in the holiday seasons, the full thick of it. What do you got going on for the holidays, man?
Probably way too much eating and not enough sleeping. We'll probably put it out that way.
Man.
So,
that's how it usually works out, this time of year. So happy holidays, everybody. Very excited for today's episode. We're going to do your classic predictions episode, right? If you all caught the very last episode of our AI Unleashed webinar series, we kind of talked about 2024, what we get right, etc. We'll probably put up a little mini episode of that for everybody here over the holiday break before the next episode. But today we're going to talk about what's next in AI. We're going to talk about, maybe just a little bit of recap on the journey. I mean, it is still pretty crazy to think about. Just literally, ChatGPT is like 2 years and 1 month old, and we're like so new into this. So we'll do a little recap for everybody. But more importantly, I think we're going to talk about some of the trends, and specifically to, all of you in sales, or if you're a CEO or CRO, and you're thinking about these things, what are the questions that you're probably asking yourselves? And what are our predictions based on what we're already seeing in revenue organizations and what we anticipate seeing, right? We can't really anticipate where Gen AI is going to be. I mean, who the hell knows?
And I think that's why the recap's going to be good, because you can learn from the past a bit here. I know for me in particular, I never anticipated how quickly it would evolve.
Oh, man.
Like, there were things we were excited about, and we're like, oh, we're the first ones to do it. And then 3 months later, it would just get rolled out everywhere. We're like,
right.
Oh, okay. So I think that was just a big, I'm pumped for the recap, but of where this is going, because it's wild, man. It's going to get wild.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about this, I think, in the first episode a little bit too, where it's like, it's also like, are we as far along as we thought we would be in some of these? And like the application pieces, like, yeah.
We'll dive into that.
We'll get into some of those. So that's what we're going to dive into, everyone. We're going to spend about 20 minutes talking about the things we think are top of mind for 2025. Who knows, man, maybe in April we'll be like, oh yeah, and now ChatGPT can also do your laundry or something, so.
Hope so. I think I saw a funny meme, and then we'll dive in there. It was like, I don't want AI to do art and music so I can do laundry and dishes. We wanted AI to do the laundry and dishes so we could do arts and music. It's going the wrong direction.
That's right. I agree, man. I agree 100%. So first segment here, DM question of the week.
So I love this, and that's the opportunity. I'll send us your questions, because we will answer them live. We will get back to them on it. So this one it's a good one, and it sets us up well. It says, I'm an SDR who really, at the end of the day, I send mostly emails to book my meetings, and I'm a little bit worried that these tasks aren't super value added. What should I do in this situation? You want to dive into this one first?
Sure. Leave your job, probably.
I didn't want to say it.
Is probably it. Look, there's ways that I do want to preface that, because you can make a job what you want to make it. I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm a job, this is what I was told to do. Most leaders want you to show initiative. So the first thing would be, I'd say, look, I hear that this is what you want me to do. I'm happy to do these email templates. What I would like to do is I will still hit your numbers. I want to spend 20% extra time to show you a new way forward over the next month. And then if I'm able to generate different types of results, are you okay with me duplicating that? I am telling you right now, most sales leaders are sane and reasonable people. And as long as they don't look bad and someone doesn't go to them like, hey, why isn't Johnny Smith hitting his numbers? They're usually like, well, okay, if you're going to hit your numbers and you're going to try something different, like I'm good with it. So, I like to take a little bit of ownership over it first, and then, yeah, maybe I bounce.
Yeah, well, it really depends, like, who really just sends emails. How's this a phrase? It depends on if they're your emails or someone else's emails.
Yeah, they're just like templates.
Because if you're sending someone else's templates, someone else's emails,
Probably are.
You're in a lot of trouble because you're also not developing the skill of writing. You're not developing the skill of prospecting. And so these value-added tasks aren't super value-added. Value is all about using. If you can't use it, it's not valuable. So where at your role could you create things that are usable, right?
Yeah.
New templates, new processes, new systems, connecting the dots better. So, but this is one, if you're an SDR, if you're a seller out there and you're using other people's content only, you're in trouble because that's easy to do now. That's easy to produce. So I hope this person, one, I hope they join the community,
right.
Get in there, learn how to do these things and see where it can take you.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of opportunity, but yeah, I mean, if you are just hitting send all on other people's emails and then you're a glorified calendar helper, yeah, that's a good segue. So let's get into it. So again, today's topics, I've got a couple questions here, KD. I know you've got a couple too that we're going to dive into around what's next. 2025 is basically here. Like you said, people are maybe listening to this, having a cocktail. Well, hopefully maybe you're, actually relaxing a little bit as well too. So the very first one, and let's start hitting pretty heavy here, which is, will AI become the default salesperson? By 2025, or even I'll maybe phrase it too, how much do we really think AI will be able to replace, knowing that things don't quite move as fast as we think, of the actual role of sales?
Mm-hmm. So this one is fun because this is what gets everyone so excited. Like, well, there'll always be a salesperson.
People want to talk to people.
And it's like, just like they'll always be riding horses. It's like, yes, there's still people that ride horses. That is true, right? But I like to break this down to the different parts of a salesperson, almost like the Frankenstein of it. Because when we use salesperson as itself, will AI be the default salesperson overall in 2025? I don't believe so.
Yeah.
But if you break down the things salespeople do, I think there's parts of the salesperson that it does start to be the default. Research, for example. That's part of a salesperson's job, or was historically. That part becomes the default for a salesperson in 2025. Research is an easy one. Prep is another one. Customized messaging is another one, where it starts to take pieces of the salesperson, I'll say, away or empower the sellers that actually know how to leverage that technology. But I do think, I'll go out here, we'll see 2025, I start to believe that discovery by the end of 2025 is no longer a salesperson-led thing. Because if you think of what is discovery, what is good discovery? Asking great questions to find a use case, identify a problem, and create a custom POV for that individual. As buyers start to experience this, where they can engage online at any time, where it's like, I want to look at this product. Cool, we've got 5-10 questions for you here. And an avatar pops up and asks them and really goes through it. I think the discovery part of selling by the end of 2025 is heavily
interesting. All right,
well, I went there.
Let's click on that, because my medic and medpic people are about to flip tables right now. They're like, but I need to understand all these other things and the champions and the economic buyers and all this stuff. And I feel like, look, you and I both know this, that I agree to for a certain type of seller in particular, because the other thing for us is to put yourself in the seller's shoes. I'm answering the same questions to this company, to this company. So I can see that. But the discovery process is one of the most important parts, if not the most important part of sales. So how do you feel like, if I'm a seller, okay, let's say we do have some of this. How is the seller then showing up in that first meeting?
So ideally, it allows them to go deeper, faster. Because the reality is, and I know this gets people fired up, where it's like, oh, well, no, KD, like AI couldn't do that. Like, we'd run such great discovery.
They don't.
Most sellers don't. No. You don't. I'm telling you, because I get to talk about this as a leader and as a buyer. I get sold to all the time. Discovery is minimal at best, and then even worse, it's not used. Whereas the best reps take the discovery and use it. So if I am a world-class seller and I didn't do the discovery, but in front of me is a one-page summary of what they cared about, the use cases, how to connect the dots to the product, social proof that would apply to them, potential objections, where they got excited, what they were looking for. now I can go deeper in that demo faster, but also I can do discovery continued. That's also the problem with most sellers is discovery stops.
Yeah.
I did disco, stage complete, move on.
Right.
So as a seller, that I think allows me to show up and go deeper versus trying to ask all the questions, listen to all the answers, and not feel rushed. Because a lot of sellers treat discovery like a checklist. They treat it like MedPick.
Yeah.
They treat it like spiced. Like, oh, I checked the letters.
Yeah.
They didn't get the context behind it. So that's what I think happens.
I can get down with that. I think, yeah. And I think too, I think buyers, you think about at the top of the funnel too, that like first interactions, initial, like, can I please, for the love of God, just like watch a demo without having to talk to somebody? So yeah, I can get down with that. And I think what you're hearing here, we are still years away from the being able to interpret and read the tea leaves and that 15% customization that makes the buyer be like, oh, this person adds value versus this person's just doing something. I could have filled out a form. I could have watched a video. Again, because it's two ways, right? If I could just fill out a form and then the demo that you're going to do isn't even customized to discovery, can I just watch the demo too? And then let's just talk about implementation, like, and that becomes, like the role of CS and those types of roles, I think, become more important.
Yeah, and that's where with these demos, and this is 2026, I'm not going to go to 2025 yet, but we'll see, where if I fill out that form and now I get that demo pop up, it's like, all right, is there a particular use case you're interested in? And I type that in, and it's like, oh, let me take you there. And then you could say, well, but AI seller, I don't know my ICP. Oh, it's like you start to do I believe this is where it gets to in 2 years, is now that guided demo is fully customized based off the questions it asks throughout it. And then it's the end where it's like the actual implementation, connect it to it, the POV, like that's where it starts to get very interesting to me. So we'll see, my friend. We'll see.
All right. Well, this is another hard-hitting one, all right, which is around emotional intelligence. We all are so emotionally intelligent. We're paying attention. We're not multitasking or anything. When we think about this year, so again, we're literally 2 years into this, Gen AI world, and now we're going to be, into year 3. Do you think ChatGPT and tools like it, and I'm not talking other types of AI, will be able to develop EQ to the level of mimicking empathy convincingly, and maybe some other of those like soft skills I think that many of us think are uniquely sales?
Absolutely. I absolutely think that it can, because it's mimicable, right?
Yeah.
Anything that is a behavior can be mimicked. So, and by the way, humans, we mimic empathy all the time. You know this damn well.
Totally.
You pretend to care about something. You put on the face that would be like, oh, this person wants to think I care. We mimic, which means AI can mimic.
Sure.
And especially
probably better, right? Because it actually doesn't know the difference between caring or not caring. It just knows the behavior it's supposed to
and it doesn't
enact.
carry biases. It's not afraid of being shamed. It's not afraid of failure. It's not afraid of looking bad.
Right.
It's not trying to hit a quota. It's not worried about providing for family. Like all the baggage we carry in any human interaction is actually what hurts our EQ. I do believe whether it actually develops EQ, I'm just glad you used the right word, or can it mimic EQ? I absolutely think it can. Absolutely. I was leading a training just this morning for an SDR team and was talking to them about how, when a prospect tells you they have a problem, don't say good. Don't say good.
Great.
Sellers, sellers, your filler words are almost always positive. Good.
Yeah, great.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool.
Absolutely.
So someone's like, our data's all over the place. Okay, good. You know how easy it is to actually code or program if someone tells you they have a problem, respond this way. Like, I've been saying this for almost 10 years now, that truthfully to me, sales is nothing but a very long chain of if-thens. And
it's not infinite variables.
80% of it, I think, is relatively predictable. If this, then that. If this, then that. And the problem that we've set ourselves up for is, there's now hundreds of millions of hours of call recordings out there of what the best of the best do. How do they respond to certain things? So I do believe it becomes very close to mimicking way sooner than I think people realize. It's already there.
It's already there. That's what I was going to say. And, this will be a fun fact. Have you ever done Strengths Finder? It's like 1 through 34. Okay. Empathy for me was like 33, like literally at the bottom, you know, and what I realized, and again, I think over time I've become, you know, genuinely more empathetic. But look, what is empathy? What I got good at is I ask a question, I hit the mute button, right? I just listen. Okay, I have my questions written down, so I'm not trying to think of it. I'm fully present. So by literally creating space and pausing, being present and not distracted. Okay, now I want all of you to think about, is this your sales call? Is this what you're doing today? And every 2 questions I asked, I recapped back to people exactly what they said to me. I remember I used to put the phone on mute, Katie. I'd be like when I was training new reps, I'd be like, watch this. All right, so Katie, what I heard is you're trying to do this, you're trying to do this, and you're trying to do this. Is that right? And they'd go, and their face lights up. Yeah. They're like, yeah, that's it. Yes. I'm like, and they're like, like you literally, you can, by the way, you can try this with your significant other too. And they're like, wow, like she or he's really listening to me. But again, you know, those are kind of how I learned that part of it, by just making people feel heard. And again, I want a lot of you sellers to think about, if you're like, well, it doesn't, listen to your call. Are you even doing what I just said? Are you listening? Are you recapping? Or is it like an interrogation? Are you listening and kind of playing off of what they said?
There's some, I can't remember the name of the theorem. I'll go and find it. But it's like, when we judge someone else, we judge them far worse than we judge ourselves, right? So, and I think that's what all sellers are doing to AI now. It's like, well, it can't connect with people emotionally. It's like, well, are you?
Yeah.
It doesn't listen. It doesn't care. Do you? Like, but also we put AI on this pedestal that most sellers aren't even
100%.
meeting. And I know some of y'all just turned off the episode right now because you're like, oh, no, that's not me. I mean, okay. But the reality is what Jake just gave as an example can be taught. There are already AI therapists. If you think about where empathy has to show up in therapy, there are already AI therapists that patients prefer over a human therapist because they don't fear judgment anymore. They're more open. We talked about this in another episode, but this is one where I think it gets very mimicable. And if we're being honest, Jake, as a buyer, how much empathy do you want from your seller?
I just want them to be able to connect the dots.
Say it again. I'm going to ask this again. As a buyer, when's the last time you're like, you know what? I loved that seller because they were empathetic.
I like to feel heard, but the way you show me that I felt heard is by how you put together the solution.
You help me.
Yeah,
you help me.
That's how I feel. Is like, as long as I can tell, and I'm not repeating myself 50 times, or I can tell you copied and pasted this. That's it.
Yeah, especially as you go up market where people said, well, you couldn't do this enterprise. Mm-hmm. When you're selling a $2 million contract to 14 internal buyers, empathy is the last thing that company is thinking about when they're making this decision. They're looking at the use case, the return, the implementation, and the risk.
Losing it right now.
I know we're gonna, but enterprise sellers, this should help you create better use case, create better POVs, connect the dots better, because you don't have access to the entire internet in your brain. AI does.
That's right. Scenario plan, role play. We'll get. We've done a million of those types of. Chats, etc. All right, man, let's talk sales leadership.
I was going to say, I want to pivot this a little bit here, because we talk a lot about the seller, where the seller be replaced, how sellers can use this. What about sales leaders?
Ooh, frontline sales leaders.
2025, will AI make sales leaders obsolete?
It's a really great question. This actually is how me and you started the journey. This is how you guys have heard this story before. Pinehouse Pizza, Beer and Pizza, talking about all the things that we thought after 15, 20 years of sales leadership and sales was proprietary, and then starting to go down the rabbit hole of like, well, can it do that? Can it do that? Here's what I would say. Sales leadership, and I think we all know this, for a lot of companies, most sales leadership is not really leadership. It's mentorship, or I'll call it hero leadership, which is me telling you about what I've done before and how you should do it. It's advice giving. Yep. Most sales leaders today are not trained how to coach, ask questions. Okay, great. So, Jake, I know you. What's the goal here? Okay, what are some options forward? Okay, based on that, okay, where do you think we're at today reality-wise? Okay, based on kind of these things, how should we move forward? Mm-hmm. How many of you sales leaders, I want you to look yourself in the eye, when a rep comes to you and talks about a deal, and a rep needs to work on a skill, how many of you pause and coach versus just give advice. Now, let me ask you this same question. How many times in the last 12 months have you given the exact same piece of advice? Therefore, I can create a custom GPT that is the Jake way of giving advice that a rep can go in. So, look, it goes back to a lot of the things, and again, we talked about empathy or mimicking behavior. If you are giving the same advice over and over again, it might make you feel good. And I think what happens, it gives us that little dopamine rush. I'm smart. I'm smart. And it's not conscious. A lot of it's subconscious. Oh, look they need me. Now, I don't think they're replaced, but Katie, can they manage 20 people now maybe? Can they manage 30 people? And I can also use Gen AI to have custom personal development plans. So man, I'm a coach 24/7. I am in the trenches. I'm building people up, and I'm actually not giving as much of the exact same deal advice. So that's my take on it, man.
I think it's going to, over the next year and a half, create a lot of super leaders where it will fill the gap. So I actually played with this idea 3-4 years ago when I was at Patient Pop of, we specialized reps, SDRs, AEs, inbound, outbound. And I had the thought, what if I specialized my managers? Because you have some managers that are great coaches. They're great at it, but they're really bad with like data and process.
Okay, I see where you're going.
Then you have other leaders where they're great process, data, but ask them to coach a call. Good Lord, they can't. So I was like, what if, because you think about what a manager has to do, so I'm so empathetic with managers, you have to be good at all of it. You actually don't get to lean into your strengths. So what I did it for 1 quarter, where this was the call coaching manager, this was the productivity manager, and this was the process manager, right? And I think AI is going to allow leaders, if they're self-aware enough, to admit where they are weak, to fill that gap.
Yeah, or play to their strengths, right?
Because what's going to happen, if you're a great coach, you will do it better than AI now.
Yes,
in
for
a
sure.
year and a half, but now you can. But if you're weak in data, it's going to lift you up so much higher. Maybe you're a great data person. It's not going to catch what you can catch, but it might help you coach better. So I think, to your point, I think leaders should be able to start to lead more people at once and have their gaps filled, because not every leader is great at everything.
Oh, sure.
Not every leader is great at everything. I know my flaws. I know the places that I am weakest. I know the places that I'm good. I want AI to fill those gaps, whereas I think too many people look at what they're good at and go, AI can't do it as good as me. That's not the point.
80%.
Look at 85. What you're not good at and let it lift you up there. So that's what I think happens on the leadership side.
I like that. Not only filling in the gaps for the leader, and then also, kind of going back to what I was mentioning, where the ability to really scale your good best practices as well, and spend more time on the people side of it. I think that's critical.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess this goes a layer deeper then.
Ooh.
Will the reps follow AI, right? Will they follow AI's instruction more than a manager, more than a VP's instruction?
Will I listen to AI over my boss? Well, you got to listen to your boss a little. You got to manage up a little bit.
Probably should.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. It's been interesting, right? We've been having flavors of AI in sales around predictive forecasting, and Johnny talks too much, so if Johnny talks less, he'll close deals. So we've kind of had this flavor, and I would say people are pretty not trusting of it today. I think where Gen AI possibly fills in the gaps, salespeople, we always just want to know the why. And nobody ever, talks enough. That's not good enough. We all know that there are nuances. Like, this deal, I should have talked more because blah, and this blah, blah, blah. So I think the answer is, as the generative AI is able to take in the same amount of 3 or 4 data points that we would triangulate, we probably start to trust the forecast more. We probably start to trust the AI-driven insights more than we probably ever have. And then, yes, inevitably we will get there. Now, is it next year? I don't think so. I think we start down the path because AI can help to explain the why. And I think if you can tell a salesperson, here's the why. I've triangulated this, Jake. I've listened to your last 15 sales calls. And look, consistently, here's some patterns I've noticed. Here's a clip I want you to listen to. I mean, we're not there yet, but we will be there. So I would say I don't know if they're going to follow it over their leaders or managers today. Going back, it will definitely augment the leaders, but it's getting there, man.
I might be on the other side of the table.
You think it's ready now?
If we actually ask the question, how much better are most leaders making their reps right now? It's kind of a heavy question to ask because a lot of managers and leaders aren't actually making their people better, which I believe creates this vacuum of, okay, well, where else can I go to learn?
They're helping them to hit quota maybe, but they're not building skills.
Building skills. They're not giving a lot of feedback. They're not able to, and truthfully, first of all, I want to empathize with the managers and the leaders. They almost can't give all the things that they need to give to a rep, right? And so if you started getting like at the end of every call, well, your manager at most is listening to most companies 3 to 4 calls a month at most.
At most.
Where all of a sudden, after every call, you got a little feedback on that call saying, hey, you nailed this, you nailed this, you nailed this. Based off what your ex top performer at your company is doing, I think if you asked this question on your next call, you might see a little bit more engagement in discovery. Oh, and then the next call I do it and I get recognized.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right. I actually think this is going to happen very quickly because people are going to get a taste of like what actual coaching is,
right,
and improving them and giving them the insight. So you mentioned the why earlier. It's, one of the questions a lot of leaders love to ask is like, like, how can I help you? How can I help you? And I always laugh at this question because it assumes so many things. One, it assumes you can.
Or that they know.
Okay, right. First, it puts you in a hero complex. How can I help you, Jess? And I got hero complex. Second, you're asking them to give you the answer. If they knew how you could help them,
they probably would have asked.
They probably either would have asked or they already would have done it. Whereas I believe AI is going to give people some proactive coaching around things that a manager can't do. So this isn't a knock to a manager because a manager can't review all the calls you're going through. A manager can't look at your entire territory. A manager can't analyze like what's happening across the board and give you that feedback. I actually think this happens fast.
I think so. 2025, there's pieces of it. There's another follow-up here, which is this idea of the collaboration between the manager, right, and AI. And yeah, I just feel in the macro here, a lot of the trends we're talking about as we start to kind of wrap up, it's the role of what it means to be in sales leadership, senior sales leadership is just becoming different and becoming more complex in certain areas, but also simplifying in other areas if you know how to use the technology. And so I think for hopefully a lot of people listening to today's episode, look, it is what it is. These things are happening, and I get it. It's so hard as someone who's been a practitioner for 20 plus years to say, the things that got me to where I am today are not going to be the skill, even the skill sets or the knowledge that I gained. You could get, have a pity party being like, well, what do you mean all this? I spent my life, not doing this, and now it's, somewhat irrelevant, but it's not, because again, what you didn't hear us say are things like creativity, critical thinking, cleverness. Those are the things that 2025 isn't going to touch those, to a certain level. So KD, take us out, man, in terms of, when you think about how to make sure that you are staying on top of this for 2025, if you're a rep or a leader, give me a couple of, skills or areas outside of just getting better at the tools that I should be thinking about.
So one, as a leader, like you just nailed this. Like if you have 20 years of experience, what that actually means is you have 20 years of context, which actually means you have 20 years of if-thens. That's all experience actually is if this, then I know to do X. That's actually setting you up to be better with AI, not worse with it, because you have the context. So one, I would start downloading yourself. Interview yourself. Have someone on your team interview. Okay, so when a deal is stuck, what do? Capture that. Capture that, and you can start to feed it, right? It'll help you do more of that experience. So that's one. Two is block the time for this stuff. Like I have time on my calendar every 2 weeks to dive in. just to dive in. What is new? What's happening? Where could I apply it? Things like that. Bring someone in to own it. But I mean, you know this. I signed up my entire revenue leadership team for the AI course that your team is teaching at, and I paid for it too, by the way. It wasn't free. No hold me discount.
I mean, yeah, I got a little.
I mean, it was
something.
It was a volume discount, but paid for it. And like, I cannot tell you, every single week they come in with like, oh, what if we did this and what if we did that? And it's things I hadn't even thought of, right? So it's getting your team invested in it, not to be afraid of it. It is what, like you said, it is what it is. It's here. It's not going back into the box. So you might as well make sure your team knows how to do it and to use it. Because at the end of the day, the ones that figure it out first are going to win in the long run, and that's my goal.
I love that, man. Yeah, and so everybody, hopefully you can go into the holidays with some ideas of 2025. Maybe you have a little downtime you can write out, maybe some things you're going to focus on going into the new year. Make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the newsletter. We've got the link in the show notes. Check out some of the courses and things we're doing. Also check out KD's Leadership Accelerator. If you guys are a sales leader and you haven't subscribed to that, we've got a link down there. Maybe you got a holiday promo for people? A little holiday?
Ooh, we could probably do that.
Holiday promo?
Yeah, a little gift.
In the season there. So again, a lot of this is about making everybody better. And so we'll see everybody in the new year. We're excited. We're going to talk a little bit about enablement in the new year and what does a lot of this mean for our folks in enablement and, helping to really empower the sales team. So happy holidays, everybody. Make sure to subscribe, share this with your other sales friends, buddies. And we'll see you in 2025.
Have a great new year, y'all.